Hello and welcome to this week's IG Live. And I am so excited because today I get to interview somebody I went to high school with, and that is Jamar Caldwell. Yes, I was lucky enough to go to high school with him. He is now with Bleusol Photography. So we're going to be talking to him all about photography, the art of it, and also what it's like, to be working in a studio space, which is a collective space and kind of a group space for artists in Charlotte. And just in general about how we can use photography, if you're trying to promote your business, kind of the advice that he gives to people. So let me get him on here for you. And as you know, we come here and bring you people who are out there following their dreams. Hello.
Hey.
Hi. Oh my gosh, it's so fun to talk to you.
Oh, wow. It's been 30 years, probably.
I was just thinking about that this morning. I was like, is that possible that it's been that long? Hello.
It is possible. It's crazy. I was on a call recently about the reunion.
Yes.
30 years.
That's insane. Are you going?
That's a good question. I've got some plans that were already in place, so I might be able to make something, but maybe not the whole thing. So
Yeah, it's a little harder for me because I'm on the East Coast. I mean, I'm not on the East Coast anymore,
right.
so that makes it harder. But it also means like I have less chance to see people, so that would be
Right.
really
I was
great.
wondering where you were now. I was like, the last I remember was Texas when you were in
Yeah,
college.
no, I'm in California, so
California?
Sacramento.
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. I've never been to Sacramento. I've been to San Francisco, LA, San Jose, like those places.
There's not, I mean, I love Sacramento, but one of the main selling points for it is that it's near San Francisco and near Lake
Okay.
Tahoe. It's not so much
Okay.
for Sacramento.
Right,
Yeah,
right, right. Got it.
nice. So let's talk about your work with your photography, which is so amazing. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
Okay. Well, I am Jamar Caldwell of Bleusol Photography um, in Charlotte, North Carolina. Have a. I'm actually in my studio space now at the Vapa Center, which is a art space collective. It's a 150,000 square foot building with over 300 artists, 350 artists. Um, that do everything from photography, painting, sculptors, massage therapists, Reiki healers. Um, it's everything. Everything's in here. There's a comedy theater here. There's a off-Broadway theater here. Um, there's different like sketch troupes that are here as well. So I mean, it, there's not ever a dull moment here, and there's always something going on. So it's a great space. But yeah, photography probably. Oh, let me back up. Started in 2009.
Hmm.
What is that? 15 years,
Yeah,
something like
you're right.
that. Yeah. So started in 2009, just kind of on a whim, and it's not
Really?
something like I said, "Hey, I want to be a photographer." It didn't happen.
So
Didn't happen.
you never had that thought like growing up. I mean, you were always really artistic, but
Mhm.
I don't remember anything about photography. But
No,
just you
well, I think
tried it and you just loved it.
yeah, I think art is one of those things. It's like an energy that never stops.
Mm,
It just kind of maybe changes direction or, goes up, down, backwards, forwards, but I don't think it ever stops. So I think from like when you and I were in school, it was orchestra.
right,
And then so while being in orchestra, um, I figured out that I could sing.
right,
So I didn't really sing in the choir, but I actually ended up going to college on a choral scholarship. How crazy is
right.
that? And then like through college, like I started getting those disposable cameras, just taking pictures around campus. And then I was like, man, this is nice. So I never thought about it again. Then I started managing a band, and then I was taking pictures and videos of them. And then once that kind of stopped, I moved back to Charlotte, and like, and then the job that I was at closed. This was kind of when the economy was doing the
Right.
thing, 2000, end of 2008. And the next thing you know, I said, I'm gonna buy a camera and just kind of see what happens. I have a whole story with that too. So, yeah.
So what was it that you loved about the photography once you did?
Um, I think, it was just another way of expression, like as far as like, playing cello or singing, it's one of those instantaneous things of expressing.
Mm.
Whereas with photography, it's instantaneous as well. It's a moment frozen in time, you know what I mean? And I don't know. I just like the idea of being able to catch something beautiful that won't ever happen again. Just like when the second passes, that's it. And then
Right.
you move to the next one, that's it. So I like the idea of being able to stop things and just being able to remember it forever like that. So yeah.
And what strikes me too is because you do a lot of like portraits
Mhm.
and branding photography for people, and it seems like you have this, I don't know, you just have this ability to bring out something in people. You can see it in your photo. Anybody who's watching, if you haven't gone to his Instagram, you really should. And there's really beautiful portraits of people, but you can see they're so happy to be doing it. Whereas I think most of us don't really enjoy getting our
Right.
pictures taken. But
Right.
you have like this ability, like how do you do that? That you can tell they're really enjoying themselves and they feel like really, what's the word? I don't know. It just seems like they feel authentically themselves, like they feel really comfortable and like they're really representing themselves. You know?
It's funny. It's funny you say that because I've always felt like that was a part of my gifting when it came to photography, as far as being comfortable in front of me. So, quick story. I've always been a big guy, and I'm still big, bigger than then. But I remember when I first got into sales, not first, but I was into sales. This is early 2000 sometime. And I remember I was working at a furniture store. I was working at Bassett Furniture at the time. And this lady named Nancy, who was a sales manager, and she was like, okay, and this is really a blunt statement. She said, all right, you're a big black man. How are you going to sell a dining room set to an old white lady? And I had to think about that. I was like, I have no idea.
Right.
So I think the first thing I had to do was bring all this down.
Mm.
Not dumb it down, just bring it down. Whenever I would talk to people, especially smaller ladies in furniture stores, I would kind of get under them a little bit
Mm.
because I'm 6'4", so I already look like Gargamel to most people. You know what I mean? So it's like I always kind of soften my appearance. I soften everything
Yeah.
so that it would be comfortable. So even in photography, it's the same type of concept. I make it fun.
Right.
I make people really comfortable. And of course, just being my age and where I am and all that stuff, I shoot a lot of women, and sometimes I shoot a lot of older women.
Mm.
And the first thing they always say is, "Well, after I lose this 10 pounds, I want to do it."
Right.
I'm like, no, it's never going to happen. It may and it may not. So don't worry about it. So let's just get where you are today. So making them comfortable in their own skin
Mm-hmm.
is like, I think it's like a superpower of sorts. You know what I mean? I had this one client. She was my massage therapist. She lost her husband some years ago, and we did some pictures right here in the studio. And there was this one shot of her, and it's a black and white, top light down, straight down, and like she did this. I just told her, I said, just move. I said, just act like I'm not even here. Just kind of connect with yourself. She did this one move where she just kind of softly just did like this, and once she saw that picture, she was like, "This is the first time I felt free." I was
Wow.
wow. I mean, it brought tears to my eyes. I ain't gonna lie. She's like, the first time I fought free. And I said, you know what? This is what it's for.
Mm.
Like all the sacrifice, all the late nights on
Right.
YouTube, cameras working, breaking, lighting, things working out, things not working out. I said, this moment right here is what it's all for. And I love moments like that. So it's like a high, almost like a drug that I want to see that in people. Oh yeah.
Yeah, because you mentioned that on your page about how it's like making magic and kind of changing lives, and you think,
Mm-hmm.
well, how can you change with photography? But what a great story that you do. Like people feel more comfortable with themselves and in their own skin.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So where did
So yeah.
you get the name for Blue Soul from? I'm
Well,
sure the story behind that.
it's I wanted it to be a lot deeper than it was, but it's not that deep. So this was 2000. I started shooting in 2009.
Mm-hmm.
2002, I was managing a band, which was my brother-in-law at the time. Um, I was trying to come up with a name for a management company. So I'm just messing around on the internet, and mind you, this is 20 years ago, so the internet's still somewhat new because 94, 95 is when it kind of got to the masses. As a matter of fact, the first time I got on the internet was at Javon Dobie's house.
Really?
Yeah. Remember Javon? But
Yeah.
anyway, got on the internet, was just messing around, and I saw somebody had named a fashion show Blue Soul, and they spelled it like that. And I was like, man, that's a crazy name. I love that. So I tried to give it all this thing. I tried to make this logo that, Blue Soul is French for blue sun. Has no meaning to me whatsoever. But more importantly, when I wrote it down, I was like, and I'm a marketing guy, marketing major in college. I was like, this just looks good on paper.
Mm-hmm.
It looks good on paper, and it looks good printed. Like this is my logo on my shirt. So it just looks good on paper, and I think it would translate well. And it stuck, and I stuck with it, and I've had that name for 20, 22 years, I think.
Wow.
So it was Blue Soul Management first, and then Blue Soul Marketing Media now. So yeah.
Well, we should mention that too about when you're talking about marketing media that you do branding photography, which goes into kind of what we were talking about before is that people don't necessarily like to have their picture taken, but also especially branding. I feel like, so on this channel, we interview a lot of people who have started small businesses.
Right.
And across the board, one thing that people say they hate is doing marketing, especially if it's focused on themselves, that they hate doing that kind of branding. So what do you say to people who need to do this kind of branding, but they just feel really uncomfortable with it?
Well, I think I've always said marketing and branding is like your calling card to the masses, like to the people that you want to connect with. So it's one of those things like you got to do it, otherwise like no one's going to know what, that it's you.
Right.
Short story about that. I remember just doing some research one time, and I was also working for a marketing company, and Coca-Cola was one of the clients. And we were doing a piece for Fanta, which is a sub of Coke. And in that time, I found out that Coca-Cola, and this was almost 10 years ago, Coke was spending $1 billion a year on marketing.
Wow.
Billion, like 960 million, so $1 billion in marketing. And I was like, this is the number one beverage company in the world. And this is what they do every year. And it's not like anybody's that close to them, but they want to make sure that nobody gets that close to them. So, and I was like, you know what? If they can spend that kind of money, of course you can't spend it, but you spend what you can in order to stay in front of people, because especially now, everybody's jockeying for the same customer. So the whole idea is to make sure that you stay on the front of the mind of the people that are your target market.
Right.
So you have to just kind of get over it. And don't be insincere about it. I remember we said something about that. Don't be insincere about it. Just say, hey, this is who I am. This is what I have. This is what I'm selling. Will you buy it? I mean, that's what it really boils down to. Because people buy personalities more so than the product.
Right. Especially today with social media, it seems like you have to be out there personally. You can't just kind of put the products.
You got to. Like, I got 2 pictures. I don't know if you can. There's one. That's for a sunglass line.
Nice.
And then this is one. You can barely see it. But this is a guy, his name is William Fulton. He has a juice. He has a juice bar. So the juice bar, like when I tell you he's used the heck out of those pictures, he's used them to death. But he just got a van wrapped with the juice bottles. He's on the back of the van. He's the personality of the business. He's trying to pull out just a little bit so he can expand a little bit more. But at first, he's the Hugo bar. It's called the Hugo bar. And he was the personality. And he's not necessarily a picture guy, but he's a big personality guy.
Right.
So, and people buy that because he works the farmers markets around here. He's got some here in Charlotte, some in Winston-Salem, and he's got one in Durham, I think, as well. So, but everybody knows him. It's like, oh, man, I love his juice. The juice is so good. William's great. they start tying it together, and people they remember. So you gotta put your face out there or something as a face of your business to make it work. So, yeah.
Right. And I just wanted to say the comments. I see Katie Williams is agreeing. She's talking about how marketing is key, and she knows she's somebody I interviewed who wrote her own book, and so she's having to deal with marketing that, like as an author, putting herself out there. I wonder if you could talk a little bit more about that shared space that you're in. It just seems so amazing. How do you say it? Is it VAPA?
VAPA. Yeah, it's just an acronym for Visual and Performing Artists.
Okay.
Yeah. So VAPA we are 2 years old now. All right, let me back up. This building is almost 80 years old. This was one of the first freestanding Sears and Roebuck stores in the country.
Really?
Yes. My mom bought me baby clothes here. That's the full circle moment there. But and then years later, this became the Hal Marshall building. It's like a complex. There's another building across the street. But then this was a county-run building where there was a bunch of offices. I got my first business license here. They had like a soil sample lab upstairs where if you wanted to build, they had to test the soil, and they did it upstairs. The building is 150,000 square feet, and there's a bunch of rooms in here. So basically, we've taken these small offices and made them studios. And we pretty much, let me back up too. The building sat empty for 7 years, and it was a big storage place. After they closed it down and moved everything to another building, it was a big storage place for the county, so it was full of like office stuff through the ceiling. It was full of this stuff. So a lot of people from here and volunteers cleaned it all out and painted it. There's art everywhere, murals all over the place. There's little galleries kind of stuck in corners around. Yeah, we have events here. We've got like a big multi-purpose room. We have another big space called 9189 Studio Gallery, which is a gallery. It's a studio space, and there are also other artists in that space that have their own small studios. They're a part of something called, I think it's called Palette Table. It's ran by Joanne Rogers, and it's a whole thing to itself. So it's like I said, there's always something going on. Every time you walk in the door, there's a new piece of art on the wall. Somebody's painted something. It's like a big coloring book for art nerds like myself.
I love it. But to be around that energy, and you kind of must be like feeding off each other. I know you had one post where you saw somebody working on something, then you asked if you could take a photograph of it, and so I imagine you have a lot of room for like collaboration or just getting inspired by each other.
Anything you want to do, everybody's willing, especially to get their stuff shot. Oh yeah, you want to shoot my stuff? Yeah, like everybody wants it shot. The collaboration that you're talking about was the resin phone booth.
Yes, right.
And Jade, his name is Sega Saturn. That's his art name. It's right. He's 2 doors down from me. And I was walking by one day. I'm like, what are you doing? And he had a phone, like the kind that hangs up in a phone booth.
Right.
And he's like, I'm making a mold of this phone, and I'm making it clear. So he made a whole box. He put this phone in it. He poured resin all over it, or the front half of it, I think. And it had to cure for a couple of days or something like that. He pulled it out, and I was like, I'm going to shoot that. And then once we got it in here and got it all set up, I lit it, put some color to it, and it kind of gave me like a Stranger Things type of vibe. Like a glowing, clear phone that just seems very sci-fi-ish. And that was just me walking by. And I'm like, what are you? Because he's always doing something weird in his space. He's always making something weird. Because he's like a pop artist too. He makes like stickers and shirts, and he makes like these big art pieces, big plastic art pieces that go on the wall. He's made Sonic the Hedgehog in a different kind of way. So yeah, he's awesome. So yeah, but again, like you can walk down the hall and see anybody and say you want to shoot their stuff, and they'll be game for it for sure.
I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a great collaboration, but also good. like promotion for them if you have
Absolutely.
of it.
Absolutely.
Well, I don't want to. I promised you 20 minutes, so I don't want
Oh,
to go
no,
too
we're
far
good.
over it.
We're good.
But I would love to know, like, what kind of advice do you have for somebody who wants to get into it, whether it's photography specifically or especially going to art? Because I think a lot of people worry about like the financial side of it, and like, can they support themselves doing their art? How do they get started? What kind of tips would you have for people?
Well, I would not say jump into it both feet first. I would not say that. I would say start though. You know what I mean? Because you just never know what it's going to do later. And if you're in a position to where you can get it going and say you've got some support,
Mm-hmm.
roll with it. You know, because you just don't know how long you're going to have that support. I mean, it's always been a supplemental thing. Like, you know, if you got art, usually you have another job or
Right.
you got something to take. And especially now, because, you know, the world is so expensive to live in.
Right.
But I would always just say, just start where you are and start with what you have. A lot of times people give excuses on, well, I don't have a camera, or I don't have paintbrushes, or I don't have this, I don't have that. Man, there's a way to do everything. You can start with your phone if you want to. Out in California, there is a group called iPhonographers. They shoot weddings with iPhones.
Really?
A whole wedding. I'm talking about photo and video, and the pictures are amazing. And
Well, I
it's
bet
not
because
just it's not. Go ahead.
right. Sorry. Well, I was just gonna say my husband, he just does it like as a hobby,
Mm-hmm.
and he had a camera that he bought probably soon after we got married. We've been married 24
Oh,
years, and
wow.
now that camera doesn't take as good of photos as his iPhone does.
I bet.
His iPhone, like, they're just much clearer. He can
Mm-hmm.
kind of mess around with the editing
I bet.
better than he can with that
I bet.
camera. Yeah.
Because these phones they're really good. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like once you start getting into like higher end cameras, you know, you can't really
Sure.
touch it. But man, just to be able to spend, you know, $30 a month or $1,000 on a phone and to get that kind of quality,
Right.
it's second to none. But again, like I said, um, there's a book that I started with a long time ago. It's a photographer named Chase Jarvis.
Mm-hmm.
He's out in Seattle, I think, and he has a book called "The Best Camera Is the One That's with You."
Oh, nice.
And he's talking about if you got a phone, take a picture of that. I mean, it's more about your eye and lining it up more so than having like a big piece of gear with you.
Right.
Like if you can capture it with what you got in your hand, that's what you're after. You're after the practice of it, and you're after the moment. You know what I mean? So if you just start with what you got, and then I always say once you start with what you have, God, the universe, whatever, will jump in and start helping you. People will just start coming to you because I think everybody likes to see somebody that's trying to do something and just want to be a part of it. You know what I mean? So I've always said that, you know, once you get started, you'll find out what you need, and you work towards it, and it'll start gravitating towards you as well. So yeah.
Oh, that's very cool. I love that advice. And so now that you've done it and you've been doing it so many years, what's next for you? Like, what are you working on now?
Well, it's photography. I'm probably going to do that till I can't do this. So, which hopefully will be never. I, you know, be in my deathbed trying to take a picture. But the next thing I'm working on is voiceover.
Oh, really?
Which is like, you know, again, energy just doing this. You know, it's just doing what it's doing. So at the start of the pandemic, I guess that was that 19 or 20? I'm not sure. I think it was 19. I started messing around with, I've been saying I wanted to do it for a long time, this voiceover stuff. And I never messed with it, but that much. I bought some equipment. I went to like one of I think it was called Sweetwater. It's like an online gear house.
2020. Katie's saying the pandemic was 2020.
2020, okay. So it was like right at the end, and I want to say it was New Year's Eve. And I bought this stuff. I was in this particular headspace, and I wrote this poem, I guess. It wasn't really a poem per se. But anyway, I figured out, I got online and found a free audio editor. I can't even think of the name of it right now, but it was free. So I downloaded that, went on YouTube, figured out how to use it, and I recorded what I wrote down, and it was somewhat of a masterpiece because I haven't been able to do it again. So I was like, it's almost like once I was done with it, I was like, what's that? What's that? You know. So anyway, I messed with it. I kind of put it down. I got a call. I also let some people know that I wanted to get into it. One of my photographer friends in Atlanta, who's super big time photographer in Atlanta, he called me and asked me he said, "Are you still doing voiceover?" I said, "Yeah, not really." He said, "Send me what you got." And I was like, "Okay." So I sent him the poem and all that stuff. Anyway, jump ahead. He started modeling. He started doing like these crazy reels where he does like these uh, uh, videos where they're just like him changing clothes in the shot, like it's crazy. He got a call from Jeep, the car company, about doing that, and then he called me about doing the voiceover. I was like, what an opportunity.
Yeah.
So I sent him the stuff. I didn't get the job, but I think I didn't get the job more because I wasn't prepared. I said, never again. Never again. So the beginning of this year, I said, look, I'm just going to get some stuff together. Next door to me, 2 doors down, Laren at Soul Jukebox Studio. He has a studio, a recording studio. I said, Laren, I need to record these voiceovers and just put a reel together, something quick, just something that I can put out there. I sent it back to my photographer friend. His name is Derek Blanks. Sent it out to him. He said, man, this sounds amazing. And then he hits me back and says, can you record my bio? What? Okay. So he's worked with everybody, Viola Davis, Missy Elliott, Fantasia, Brandy, like he's worked with everybody. So I'm saying all these names on the thing, and I was like, you know what? Now's the time. Again, when I was talking about how things come to you when you're looking for them. Right after that, I saw something on Instagram about a voiceover masterclass. I'm like, okay, let me check it out. And I was thinking, oh, it's probably virtual. It's probably in California, probably in New York.
Right.
It was right down the street.
You're kidding.
This place called Ground Crew Studios.
Nice.
Right down the street. It's like from right where the studio is, it's not even 10 minutes away. It's like South End, South Boulevard. You haven't been there in years. It's on that street. So I went and I've been going there for the last 2 months, 3 months. And we had a master class, and then they have these monthly, they call them workout sessions, where you get to go in the studio and record in a professional space, read, copy, and get feedback from the professional. And then they also help you put together a reel and get you with an agent and all the things. So that's the next thing I'm working on.
I love it. And I love how you're talking about, like, once you kind of like get it rolling, you put yourself out there, things happen, like, are kind of like attracted to you, that you find, especially, yeah, like Katie was saying, right down the street. That's just mind blowing. I love that.
Right there. Yeah.
Well, I feel like I could talk to you for like another hour, but I'll go ahead and cut it off at least for now. And thank you so much for taking the time talking. This is so much fun to get. And I actually have brought you up to my kids as an example of how you don't have to fit into the boxes that people make for you. Because I remember in high school, weren't you like a football player?
Yep.
Like student council and all that, but you also played the cello and wrote poetry, which is not what people probably would have thought you would have been interested in.
And me and Carolyn hung out.
Yeah.
And Carolyn had purple hair at the time.
I think
So we were such an odd couple, but yeah.
Absolutely. So I love it, and I love that you still have that energy now, all these years later. It was so much fun to reconnect, and thank you for taking the time to inspire all of us, people all over the country watching. So do go and check it out. Bleusol, spelled with the EU, not UE. And of course, we'll have that. You can find it in the caption once we post this. If you joined us late, it'll be up in a few minutes on Instagram, and later we'll have it up on our YouTube channel. Thanks everybody for watching.
Thanks.
Bye.
All right.